There's a concept in traditional Japanese medicine that most TCM practitioners have never heard of, Hibiki. In today's video, I want to tell you why it's changed my practice so much and why it's also going to change yours. Hi everyone, I'm Maya Suzuki, and I have spent my career trying to spread the knowledge that I learned in Japan at Toyo ShinKyu Senmon Gakko and continue to learn from my teachers in Japan. Today's video is really focused on this idea of Hibiki. Not only what is it, but why is it there, and how you can achieve it in your practice, and more importantly, why it's going to take your results through the roof. So let's get straight into it. Now, if you're already ready to go beyond protocols and go into patient-based traditional Japanese medicine and truly bridge the gap between your TCM and TGM, then you're going to set up a chat with me. There's a link for that chat in the description box below. All right, let's get into Hibiki. First of all, what is Hibiki? Now, Hibiki, sounded out in English as Hibiki, is a term that traditional Japanese medicine practitioners use across various different styles. And it's a really loose term that's going to describe what happens when the energy or when the ki arrives at the needle. Now, dachi is one version of Hibiki, and I would actually go out on a limb and say that dachi is actually a very uncomfortable version of Hibiki. It's often very heavy and almost painful feeling. Now, saying that, Hibiki can be a variety of things. It can feel like a stone dropping in water and having ripples come out. It can feel like your pinky toe lighting up with warmth. It can just be your stomach moving. You could be all of a sudden aware of your ear when you weren't really aware of it. It could feel like a lightning bolt. There are 100 million different ways that Hibiki can feel, but it should always feel very good and pleasant to the client. This is a really important thing to understand right off the bat. So now that you have an understanding of what Hibiki feels like, and of course how to say it, let's talk about why it is so beneficial for everyone's practice, not just those who are looking to even transition into TGM, but those who are even doing dry needling. And just a hint, the feeling when your muscle opens and relaxes that happens in dry needling, that is Hibiki. Okay, so let's talk about why this is so important, because Hibiki can really truly change the results that you're getting in clinic. When we have an echo of energy or a resonance of ki, which is how you can kind of describe Hibiki happen with every needle, that is what's happening inside the body, meaning that the ki is literally moving and arriving at the point and moving down the meridians with every needle that you place. Now, this is really, really important because when the ki moves, so does the body. Now, I do want to say really quickly that Hibiki is never painful. It never feels sharp. So don't confuse Hibiki with something that's a little bit more uncomfortable. So how do you achieve Hibiki in your practice? So Hibiki happens when you find just the right point on the patient and do the right technique in relation to that, and therefore the ki arrives. So in order to truly have a strong Hibiki, you're going to want to make sure that you're palpating for a truly excess or truly deficient point, a point that's what we call live or reactive, an ikitatsubo. And then you're going to also want to make sure that you do the correct technique to answer what that point or that tsubo needs in order to truly treat it. Now, understanding what Hibiki is something that you can kind of understand theoretically from watching a quick YouTube video like this, but really understanding Hibiki is so much easier when you get a treatment from an amazing practitioner who's from Japan, occasionally from myself as well, or another practitioner who has studied and really understood traditional Japanese medicine. So if you've never tried traditional Japanese medicine, and honestly, if you're still watching to this point, I seriously doubt that this is you, you're going to want to go out and get a treatment from a traditional Japanese medicine practitioner. So I still kind of haven't answered the question of how can you really achieve this in your practice? And I'm going to give you a few hints and tricks on how to do that and the steps you need to take in order to get there. Now, the first thing is you want to make sure that you have excellent posture. And I know that sounds kind of funny because you're like, wait a minute, I'm doing a needle technique. Why do I need to have good posture? Well, just like in your Qigong or your Tai Chi, If you're slumped or if your body is in a different or weird or awkward way, then it's not going to match the patient very well, meaning that you're not going to be able to transmit ki through your body and move and be able to understand and feel what's happening through your needle. So before you do your needling, always make sure that you have 2 feet flat on the floor, you have space between your knees, relaxed, right? A deficient upper jiao and an excess lower jiao, meaning that our shoulders should be nice and relaxed from our ears. We should have a nice strong belly. Now always make sure that your dantian is also facing what you're treating. So that means your belly button. Imagine that you have one of those big gaudy Western belt buckles on your belly button and just face your belt buckle at your patient, especially what you're treating on your patient. Now the next thing is that you're going to want to really tune in to what you're feeling on your needle. Now, oftentimes when people hold acupuncture tools, they hold them incorrectly for traditional Japanese medicine. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to show you on one of the tools that I use very frequently in clinic. This is one of my teishin tools, and I'm going to show you on a teishin just because it's a little easier to see in a video. A needle is so fine that oftentimes it gets lost. So oftentimes when we hold needles in TCM, you're holding it at a 90-degree angle. And what happens here is that you get cut off from the tool. Now, if your ki cannot flow adequately through your needle, what happens is you can't not only feel what's on the tip of that needle as easily, but you're also going to have a hard time communicating your ki with the patient's ki. And that's going to make it more difficult to create hibiki with each point. So instead, what I'd like you to do is hold your tool so it is straight out from the index, meaning that there is no break. As you can see, there's a little break here. You want to make sure it's straight out, an extension of your index finger. Now, making your needle an extension of your index finger, again, it's going to make you a lot easier to tune in and communicate. So the next thing is that you want to really start to feel what is at the tip of your tool. Do you have congestion at the tip of your tool? Is there a lack of ki there? Does it feel excess there? What's happening with the blood around the tip of the tool? And it's going to be similar to how you feel when you're writing with a pencil on paper, and maybe you're writing on like handmade paper that's very rough, or a very smooth piece of paper, or a bumpy piece of paper, and you can feel how that paper feels through the pencil tip. It's the same thing, that you should be able to feel what's happening on the inside of the patient's body just by holding your tool and inserting your needle either on the surface or, of course, inside the body. Now, the final thing that you're going to want to do, again, after making sure you have good posture, your dantian is facing the point that you're treating, you're in line with your tool, you're connecting to the tip of the needle, is that you're going to want to feel when the ki or the chi arrives to the tool. Now, ideally, as a practitioner, you feel that before your patient. But if you have a really sensitive patient, then it's really nice to sometimes train this technique with them, because they're often going to feel it before you. Now, a lot of this is a bit esoteric, feeling for the ki and connecting and communicating. But really, when you get into traditional Japanese medicine, these kinds of things are everyday practice. And the feeling of ki, the movement of ki, the understanding and connection with it is part of the medicine. Being able to truly feel the ki and communicate with it is what's going to help you create hibiki sensation with every needle, and therefore be more effective in your treatment. Now, I know that sounds like not a lot to do, but really all of these things that I've given to you in this video is a ton of work. So if these are things that you've already started to do in your clinic, I would love to know. Let me know in the comments below. But truly, these are also things that you should be learning with a mentor like myself or my teacher. Now, if this is something that you would like more one-on-one guidance with and be able to truly achieve in your practice, then I highly suggest setting up a chat with me. There's a link for that in the description box below. All right, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time, energy, and effort that you're putting into your traditional Japanese medicine practice. It is such an honor that you spend it here with me. Do be sure to hit the like, subscribe button, and that little bell to be notified of future videos coming out all about traditional Japanese medicine. And if you would like to really up your game in your palpation, you're going to want to watch this video right over here.